Choosing the right SuperDuty based off of what you need for your business can be a little bit of a challenge. Now this one in behind me is the crew cab version of the F250. Now the F series is available, there's the 150, 250, all the way up to the 6 and 750. So it's going to be a mixture of looking at the box styling that we've got here. So the crew cab, you can get stripped away chassis and a number of other things. Now the SuperDuty lineup does have 3 available engine choices. We're looking at either a 6.2 liter, a 7.3 liter gas engine, or this 6.7 liter turbo diesel engine. Steve here, Cars with Steve, and before we start breaking down this truck, I want to give Formula Ford a huge shout out and a thank you for letting me use this vehicle to shoot the video for you today. Check down into the description below for their contact details. Now, I am also going to hide a gift card code somewhere in this video, so if you're the first one to find it and claim it, and it's yours. But let's dive into it. Let's dive deep inside of this truck, figure out configuration choices, first, second row spacing, towing capacity, and everything you need to know to get the right SuperDuty for you. Looking at some configuration options for the SuperDuty. This specific one is the crew cab. We do have the option for the Super Cab, which is the 2 full door with the 2 half door, or the regular cab, which is just 2 doors, so we won't have any back seats whatsoever. There are 2 different box sizes that are available. It's either a 6 3/4 foot or an 8 foot box instead. The one that we're looking at here is the 6 3/4. So which one you go with is going to depend on your own personal needs. But looking at overall styling, so this is the Lariat trim level of the vehicle with a few other niceties and extras and things like that added on. As we look at the wheel of the vehicle, we do have a few different options available from the factory. It's going to be a 17-inch minimum up to a 20-inch maximum, depending on which trim level of the vehicle you go with and how you have it configured at time of ordering. You could definitely do some things aftermarket, like if you wanted a little bit of a meaner look, there's the option for the Tremor, which does give it a very aggressive look as well. So which way you go is going to depend on what you need. As we start to move towards the front of the truck, we do have our quad dual beam headlamps. Now, whether or not they're halogen or LED are going to depend on the trim level and the packages that you're in, because inside of the XL, XLT, and Lariat, it's going to be a halogen default, whereas in the King Ranch and above, we get into our LED headlamps instead. Moving down, we do have fog lamps inside of the Lariat trim level, not available inside of the XL base unless you get added packages. So that's kind of one thing to look at is what do you need out of your truck? What are you doing with it? Because this one, even though it's got some extras, we can still add some things in. We've got the Lariat Ultimate Package, there's the King Ranch Ultimate Package, which are going to add in a number of things. We would have the option for our clearance lamps along the top. There's the option for upfitter switches, auxiliary switches, things like that on the inside as well. So there are a ton of options that are available, and even looking at the grille itself. So this is just going to be the base package for the Lariat. We do have our tow hooks in the front there, and there also is the option for a factory winch, and we can get up to 12,000 pounds out of that factory winch. Underneath the hood of the SuperDuty, we actually do have 3 available engine choices. So as a default, you're going to have a 6.2 liter gas engine. There is the option you can upgrade it to a 7.3 liter gas instead, and then to get the most power, so the most bang for your buck out of it, you're looking at the 6.7 liter turbo diesel instead. If we look at power across the board, the optional 6.2 liter is going to push out 385 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque, while the optional 7.3 is 430 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque, while this beauty, the 6.7 liter turbo diesel, is going to push out 475 horsepower and an impressive 1,050 pound-feet of torque. So an insane amount of pulling power out of this vehicle. Now, with the SuperDuty lineup, you're a commercial customer potentially at that point. So there are different options that are available for warranties, coverages, and things like that. Now there is the option as well to get maintenance packages and things like that at the time of purchasing your truck. And if you're the type of customer where you want things to be a little bit more hands-off, like if something goes wrong, you can just get it fixed, could you technically do that without an extended warranty or any sort of added coverages? Absolutely, but there are some commercial packages that are available at time of purchase, which would essentially cover you for any sort of wear and tear and a number of other things. So there are quite a few options that are available. Now underneath the hood itself, we do have the option for dual batteries, dual alternators, depending on which version of the vehicle you've got. Now this is the 6.7 liter turbo diesel, which means that we do have our dual batteries there as well. Not really going to be able to do too much yourself. Like, you can easily top up your windshield wiper fluid along the very front there, and you can kind of easily check your oil along the top. Now, there are a series of different features and options and things like that that you might get in the truck, might not. We've got our keyless entry there as well, so we can actually use this to lock the truck if we wanted to, simply by pressing those buttons. You can enter in a 5-digit number in order to be able to open it up. So that's going to be one from the factory. You can set it up so that there's multiple 5-digit codes there as well. Looking at the mirror itself, so we do have a series of different mirrors that are available. You're at least going to get telescoping mirrors across the entire vehicle lineup. We get into the Lariat, and with some of the added packages and even some of the lower trims, you would have the option for the power scoping mirrors instead. So they're telescoping, but it's power, so we can literally control it from the inside there to be able to extend these things out as necessary. Now, looking at the glass itself, the top part of the glass is going to be a power adjust. The bottom part of the glass here is going to be manual, and that's going to be the same across the entire vehicle lineup. So if you're kind of scratching your head trying to figure out, why can't I adjust these things? The bottom mirror, manual adjust across the entire lineup. Now, looking at filling up fuel inside of the SuperDuty, it's straightforward just along our driver's side. So inside of the gas engine, so the 6.2 and the 7.3, just regular gas is fine. So you don't have to worry about putting in a premium fuel. Inside of the diesel, you're obviously going to want to use diesel inside of that. And we've got the DEF fluid fill up there as well. So if you want to top those fluid levels up yourself, you could. But when you bring your vehicle in for service, they can make sure they top up that fluid as necessary as well. So it's going to be a matter of preference. But as you saw there, it also is not lockable. So you're not going to get a lockable cover whatsoever inside of the SuperDuty lineup. Now, we do have options for running boards inside of the vehicle. Inside of the XL and the XLT, they're not going to come standard. You will get these style running boards inside of the Lariat, and then we're going to have different style options that are available depending on the trim level. Like when we get into some of those higher trims, we do have the option for power deployable running boards there as well. We could lock the power deployable ones down permanently if you didn't want to worry about it during the winter time, so getting slush and ice buildup and things like that. But you do have the option of just the regular platform boards instead, or you could look at the power deployable. But we do have a nice look there, beautiful body stylings there as well. Moving forward, we do have our flaps along the front and the rear, and then we obviously do have our heavy duty springs, so that's going to be the same for the front and the rear. Now, this specific SuperDuty does have the optional FX4 package, so you can get that at time of ordering from the factory. Now, if you wanted the skid plates strictly aftermarket, you could technically do that. You can get just the skid plates by themselves if you don't want everything else that comes with the FX4 package, and there are quite a few things. So a couple things to note, the FX4 does require 4x4, whether you're in Canada or the States, but we do have a beefier all-terrain tire that's going to be included there. We've got some skid plates for the transfer case and the fuel tank as well. So you will at least have some coverage underneath the truck if you're going to be taking this thing off-road a little bit more. So like heavier duty job sites and things like that, you want to make sure that you're not scratching anything underneath, puncturing some things, etc. So you do have that option from the factory. Like I mentioned, if you just want the skid plates as added protection instead, you can get just the plates by themselves without the full FX4 package, and you can either get that from the factory or aftermarket through your dealer. But I do love the look of the all-terrain tires. They are nice and beefy. One thing to note, we do have a few different options for the final drive ratio. So we do have 4 different options from the factory. It's either a 3.31, a 3.55, a 3.73, or a 4.3. So that will affect a few different things. So the higher your ratio is, the more you're technically going to be able to tow. But it does come at a cost, because with that higher final drive ratio, it will actually help out a bit with acceleration, but it's going to negatively impact your fuel economy. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a SuperDuty, so it's not like you're going to get crazy good fuel economy anyways. But I mean, at the same time, it is nice to know that you've got a series of different options. And you could look at doing some things aftermarket instead. So if you started off on the 3.31 rear axle ratio, you could technically upgrade it to the 4.3 later on if you wanted to. Right now, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So we do have a few different options that are available. This is the way that the fob's going to look as a default inside of the XL, XLT, as well as the Lariat. So inside of the Lariat, we do have the option for the Lariat Ultimate package, which would give us a different style fob where it's push button start instead of the regular key. So inside of the Lariat Ultimate and above, so the King Ranch, etc., we will just have our emergency access key in the bottom there, but we've got our lock and our unlock button, remote start, as well as our horn or our panic alarm button. Now, remote starting the vehicle from the fob is pretty straightforward. We just press the lock button once, circle button twice. So you can hear there, the truck is now remote started, and then we just press that circle button once in order to be able to cancel the remote start out. All right, now moving towards the back of the vehicle. So we do have the reverse sensing system that is going to be standard inside of the Lariat. It's optional inside of the XLT if you get the XLT premium package. Now on top of that, we will always have our hitch receiver there. We've got a few different options for the class of receiver there as well. Like we do have the option for a heavy duty tow package if you're going to be pulling a little bit more weight. Now we do have a series of different options for towing capacity inside of the SuperDuty lineup. Now this is the 250 version of the vehicle, so that means that at a minimum for conventional towing, we're looking at about 12,500 pounds at a minimum, and then maxing out around 20,000 pounds. Now that's obviously a stark difference if we look at the F-Series lineup instead, so we do have a lot more pulling power inside of this, depending on how we have it configured. Now the vehicle itself has mixed availability for max payload, and max payload is literally going to be all over the place, and it's all dependent on how you have the vehicle configured. So looking at the gas versions of the vehicle, you're going to have a max payload set rating of 4,260 pounds, whereas inside the diesel, like what we're looking at here, we're going to max out at 3,940 pounds. Now that's what we're maxing out at. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what we can actually pull, because it's going to be dependent on how you have the rest of the truck configured, as those max ratings are typically going to be 4x2 with the regular cab. So it is kind of all over the place, but I am going to be putting together a video that's going to dive in depth a little bit more on configuring your SuperDuty based off of what you need your specs to be. So that video, it will be released, drop down below in the description in order to get a little bit more of an in-depth look at the towing capacities in the different configurations, as well as the payload capacities and the best way to configure your truck. But the way that this specific one is configured, if we look at that yellow payload sticker on the inside, it's just under 3,000 pounds. It's like 2,960, I believe it is, based off of this configuration. So everything that you add on, every little detail, you add on that sunroof, you add on all of the different packages like the upfitter switches, you add on the aux switches, you add on everything, every little thing is going to take away from your max payload that you can have inside of this truck. Now, moving up a little bit more, we do have our SuperDuty badge along the top with our Ford logo a little bit further up. Now, as a default, we are always going to have our backup camera there, and that's going to be standard across the entire SuperDuty lineup. There is the option for some ultimate packages for towing specifically, where we've got a full 360 view. So it is useful. We've got some split views for backing up and things like that. When we get into some of their packages, we will have the Pro Backup Assist and a number of other features. All right, now, this truck is a little bit of a beast. Like inside of the F150 series, I could easily jump in back of this thing, but I mean, I feel like Kevin Hart a little bit, just like feet swinging here along the bottom. Like it's kind of ridiculous. But this thing is kind of crazy size-wise, but looking at some options for the actual finish. Like this one is the spray in bed liner, and it's done at the time of ordering from the factory. And we can tell that because we've got the Ford logo along the back there. Now we do have some options from the factory. Aftermarket, you could do a spray in, you could do a drop in, either from the factory or aftermarket. Now, which way you go is going to depend on what you're doing. So if you're going to be doing typically like gravel, sod, things like that, getting the spray in might not be the best choice. You might want to look at the plastic liner instead, and that's just because it'll be easier to sweep it off in order to clean it out. When we get into the spray in instead, a little bit more of a tacky type of a finish, so it would make it a little bit more challenging in order to be able to clean this thing off. Not impossible, just a bit more challenging to do it. We do have our LED box lighting in the back there. As you can see, we do have a power rear sliding window inside of this thing as well, available in some trim levels. Now we do also have the option for a rear mounted camera right along that window there along the top, and then there also is the option for a customer placed mounted camera instead. So if you wanted to get that option, you could literally hook that up to your trailer so you can see exactly what's going on behind you there as well. Now, we do have a few, as I hop down with a challenge there. Now, we do have the option for the tailgate step from the factory as well. Now, if you're constantly getting in and out of the box, I absolutely recommend this step. Like, look at how easy it was to open that thing up, and then hopping inside is equally as easy. So if you're going to be in and out of the box constantly, I definitely recommend looking at the one with the tailgate step, because doing an aftermarket, you're spending quite a few bucks in order to be able to get a tailgate specifically with that cutout done. So one of the cool things about this is that we can actually fully remove it. So we literally have a few screws there where we just pop those things out in order to fully remove the tailgate if we want to. But we do have a few different options for the box. because we could technically look at either a 6 3/4 or an 8-foot bed, just depending on what we need to do with it. Now, this is the crew cab, so the full 4-door. So the crew cab with the 8-foot box is an insanely huge vehicle. So which way you go is going to depend on you, but I mean, there are quite a few options that are available, just depending on what you need for your business. But let's take a look so you can see the box dimensions. So the bed dimensions for the truck are going to be showing up there. So as you can see, there actually is quite a little bit of space inside of this thing. Now, there are a few different measurements that are showing up specifically for the width, because we've got the width from the outside, so the loading area there, from one side to the other. There is the one in between the wheel wells there as well. Now, obviously this thing doesn't have any sort of tonneau cover or cap, things like that. You could definitely look at a few different things aftermarket. There are hard tops, there are soft tops. You literally have some caps there as well. So if you're gonna be storing tools and things like that. There are some options where you could get a toolbox that's literally bolted down to the back of the bed, and people have come up with all sorts of interesting trays and sliders and things like that as well. So what you're gonna be doing with the vehicle is going to dictate what you do, and it's your choice whether you get that done at time of ordering from your dealer or if you get it installed aftermarket. Now, one of the interesting things is that if you get it done from the dealership, so you get them to take care of everything for you, you could technically wrap that into the financing of the truck if you're financing instead. Now, looking along our driver's side doors, as you can see there, we do have a 5-digit number we can enter in order to be able to get inside the truck. Intelligent access might be there, might not be there, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle we've got. But hopping inside the truck here, as you can see, really, really nice look. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Now, this is the Lariat version of the vehicle, which is why we've got this gorgeous leather there. So really, really nice look. But starting off along the driver's side door. So as you can see, series of different buttons along the very top there. We do have the option of power telescoping. So inside of the lower trims, this wouldn't be there. But because we are in the Lariat, we can literally power telescope those side mirrors if we wanted to. Moving down a little bit more, we can adjust our side view mirrors there as well. We can power fold in the mirrors, windows up and down. Moving down along the side, so we do have a series of different buttons there, and that's going to be our seat memory. So optional inside of some of the versions of the vehicle, 3 individual settings there. We do have our beautiful handle there with a little bit of wood grain. Down a little bit more, we do have a little storage tray there, and a little bit of storage along the door as well. As we start to move inside the truck, so a few things to point out there. As you can see, we do have some switches for the outside, so we can literally turn on our outside lamps if we wanted to. We can turn our fog lamps on. We do have our bed lighting, figure out what's going on with our running lamps very easily there, and then we can adjust the brightness of the cluster screen. Moving down a little bit more, we do have our power adjustable pedals there, so we can easily bring those forwards or backwards as we'd like to. So nice that's available as an option. We've got our brake release, and then we've also got our hood release. Now, as we hop inside the truck, we do have the option for either the bench seat like what we're seeing here, so that 40-20-40 split, or we've got the option for the console instead. The console literally would take a seat away, so do you need the 5 or the 6 seat configuration? Because we do technically have the option, even with this console, there's a little button right along the side there. We can literally push that in order to be able to fold this thing down. So with it folded down, we do have a few cup holders here, and we do have a little storage space. Now, it's not nearly as much storage as you would have inside of the regular console version of this thing, but if you need that 6th seat for occasionally having an extra person in the crew, family, whatever the case may be, this is a good option because we do have a little bit of storage here. But one of the cool things, and actually something that most people completely forget or don't know about their truck, this part of the seat actually comes up, and when we lift this part of the seat up inside of the bench, we do have another little storage area there. Like, it's actually kind of crazy. I've literally seen trucks that are just filthy. They've been used as work trucks for like 15 years, and the inside just looks terrible, but you look underneath this seat, and it looks brand new because not a lot of people actually realize that it's there. And one of the cool things is that this is also lockable. So we can lock this part out. We can lock out that glove compartment there as well. So we do have quite a few different spaces. We could technically throw some things if we wanted to. Now, we do also have a ton of things for the truck itself. So we did have a little bit of an upgrade on the inside for the 2022 version of the SuperDuty, which is oh so nice. Now, that upgrade comes in the form of the new Sync 4 media screen. Now, here's the kicker. That thing is not available across the entire SuperDuty lineup. You're not going to get it in the XL or the XLT. Inside of the Lariat and above is when we get the new Sync 4 media screen. I really wish that Ford would open that up so that it's the entire lineup, but we'll probably see it in the next year or two. It's just not here for the 22 across the entire lineup as of yet. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel for the truck. So this is going to be a walk around going through all the different buttons, cluster screen, etc. So let's start it off. With the pad on the left-hand side, that's literally going to let us go between our different views there. So we'll dive in deep on that one in just a second. But moving down, we do have at least our regular cruise control system. So we turn the system on or off, and along the very bottom there, we can set it one way or the other, increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. Resume and cancel there. So that's the basics of your cruise, but we would have the option for the adaptive cruise control system there as well. If we did have the adaptive cruise control, there would be a few extra options that would be available there. That's going to be our distance indicator and things like that. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? Pad along the right-hand side. So we've got a few different options there. Along the bottom right, we can either answer or hang up on a phone call. We've also got our audio mute button there, so we can easily mute out if we wanted to. And then we've got our voice command prompt. And the voice command prompt is going to let us do things like we can change the radio station, make phone calls, and navigate, things like that using our voice very simply. Then we can just press the cancel button along the very top if we wanted to go that route as well. And that's that voice command prompt there, which is great. Now, one of the cool things is that if we were hooked up through either phone, so either an Android or an iPhone, we would be able to use our Google Assistant or our Siri Assistant simply by pressing and holding that command prompt button. Now, taking a look, we do have a series of other options there as well, so we can either increase or decrease our volume. We can change between songs or radio stations there as well if we wanted to. So pretty straightforward there. And one of the cool things is that actually if we're on audio, so let's go, there you go, so we're audio there. So we can go up, down, etc. We can mute our audio out there as well if we wanted to. And then we've also got our switch button, so we can change between our active sources there. So we've got our AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. We can easily adjust and change between our presets there. Or if we were on a station, or if we were on, let's say, FM, we wanted to see just tune, we could press and hold. There we go. We can press and hold in order to be able to change stations that way as well. So you do have a little bit of flexibility as to what's going on there. Now, let's turn that off for a second. And looking at the pad on the left-hand side, so this is actually going to control what's going on inside of that cluster screen. So we have a ton of different options. Left and right is literally going to do that, so take us between different screens there. And then we can go up and down between different options, and then we've got the generic OK button. So we've got our trip counters, so we've got a few different options there. So our trip 1, fuel economy, my view, so off-road status, so we can literally see the pitch and roll and things like that for what's going on with the vehicle. If we had that rear diff lock engaged, etc., we would also have that showing up there. So it is kind of neat what is available. And we can easily adjust, or we can press OK to go into different options. We can add or remove screens, so if we wanted to add a few things in, we could. We can add in multiple trip counters, so our trip 1, 2, fuel history, navigation, etc. Moving back, we've got some info screens, so we can show our gauges, we can see our transmission temperature, maintenance monitor, see what seatbelts are currently on. We've got digital speedometer, engine info, my key info, etc. We've got some different options for towing screens, so if we're towing, we can see our current status, our towing info, or our light check, as well as our off-road screen. So the off-road screen was currently showing. So if we move back, we can also reorder that one if we wanted to, so we can easily reorder screens going to that route. But moving back, we added a few things in. So we've got our trip counter, fuel economy, we've got our off-road, which we've seen, but now we've got our different gauges. So we've got our transmission temperature, diesel exhaust fluid there as well, which we've already got a few of those. We've got that one option up overhead, so our transmission temperature specifically. Moving down, we've got our digital speedometer there that we added in as well. So you do have some flexibility as to what's actually showing up under your My View. One screen over, we've got our different trip info. So we've got our trip 1, 2, fuel economy, etc. And we can literally click in order to go through these different subscreens. And if you wanted to reset, we're literally just going to press and hold OK, and a few seconds later, and we are now reset. So it literally is that simple resetting your fuel info. And we've got some other truck info. So we've got our gauges, which we've already seen that one. We've got our tire pressure, and we can either go back to jump between the screens, or on the screen, we can just go up and down. So we've got a little counter off to the left-hand side there. You might just be able to make out. We've got our transmission temperature, seat belts, and things like that. So we've got our air filter monitor, oil life. So if we're doing our oil changes ourselves, we can reset. We've got our exhaust fluid gauge there as well, and then our tire pressure monitor. And we've got back to that basic view, or we can move back to this worded view instead. So it's either going to be the worded view or it's going to be the actual display view. It's just going to be a matter of preference there. And moving back and back, that's going to take us back to this main screen, and across we've got some towing info. So we've got our current towing status, which we don't have a trailer hooked up, so we don't have any active trailer info there at all. But if we go to our trailer options, we've got our trailer sway control. So what that sway control is going to do is if the vehicle recognizes there's trailer sway going on, it's automatically going to apply braking and apply engine braking in order to get that sway under control. If you've got multiple trailers connected, you could set up a default trailer, or you can have your active trailer there. You can change the individual settings there, so you can rename the trailer, and you can add the trailer blind spot, which is a great feature. And the reason why that's a great feature, so this one as of right now doesn't have any trailers set up, but the trailer blind spot, what that's going to do is take our base blind spot system that's available there and extend the range. So not only is our blind spot system going to look at the range of the truck, but if we enter our trailer dimensions, it's going to extend back to cover the range of the trailer as well. So those things are going to highlight orange and let us know if anybody's under not only the vehicle blind spot, but the trailer blind spot. Moving back, we've got our trailer brake type, so we've got a few different options there. As I mentioned, we do also have, so if we look down, we do also have our integrated brake controller that's available there as well. Moving down, we've got our brake effort, delete trailer, so if you have multiple trailers connected, and you can change the trailer setup as well. So that is kind of nice that we can easily add, we can change trailer settings and things like that very simply. And moving across, we do have our off-road pages there as well. So off-road pages, so as you can see there, we've got our pitch roll. We can see exactly what's going on with the vehicle there. And then we've got some other settings. So we've got our blind spot system. So that lets us know if anybody's under the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. And as you saw earlier under the trailer info, we can have that extend out to cover the trailer as well. Cross traffic alert. So if we're backing up and the vehicle recognizes a potential collision, it's going to let us know. And then our rear parking aid. So that's the reverse sensing system. So that beeping that we get as we back up, if that drives you nuts, you could turn it off. We have a series of different pre-collision assist systems. So we've got a sensitivity. So how sensitive is that system? Is it going to actively brake for us, yes or no? And then we can turn the system on or off if we wanted to for that collision warning. So it's one of the great things, because if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it will actively brake for us. So it's great from a general safety setting. But I mean, if you're doing some rugged things off-road, you wanted to make sure the vehicle's not just arbitrarily braking on you, you could turn that system off if you wanted to. We've got our gauge selection there as well. So we have some gauges up along the very top. So we've got turbo boost, transmission, or the diesel fluid there. So we can easily kind of adjust what's showing up there. And that's that one gauge up to the top right. So you can see it kind of change out as I move between different options there. So which one shows up is going to be a matter of preference. We've got some advanced settings there. So we've got some vehicle settings. So easy entry exit. If your vehicle is equipped with power seats, what that means is it's going to literally lower the seat and back it up so you can easily get in and out of the vehicle. Lighting, we've got our auto lamp delay, so when we go to lock the vehicle, do our lamps stay on for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 120 seconds? With our auto high beam setting, if our high beams are on, so we've got them on, what's going to happen is, if the vehicle senses an oncoming vehicle, it's going to automatically start dimming them before turning them back on again for us. We've got some different lock settings, so we're auto lock. As we go to start driving, the vehicle doors will automatically lock. When we park the vehicle, turn off, it'll automatically unlock. And then remote unlock. So when we use the key fob to unlock the doors, did the driver's door become unlocked, or is it going to be all doors unlocked? We've got some options for our mirrors there as well, so we can auto fold the mirror. So when we go to lock the vehicle, if we did have power folding side view mirrors, which this one does, we've got that button along the very top. So if we had that option, the vehicle would automatically power our mirrors in. So it'll automatically fold those side view mirrors in for us. And we've also got our neutral tow, which I'm not going to be towing this vehicle behind a trailer, but this is where you're going if you are going to be towing this vehicle behind a trailer. We've got our alarms. We've got all alarms, perimeter sensors. So all alarms means the alarm inside of the vehicle and the outside. And that's an interesting one. So we can ask on exit, but one of the cool things is that if all sensors were active, if you had the windows rolled down and somebody tries to reach in, it's actually going to sound the alarm. It's kind of a neat setting there, or we can just have it set as our outside sensors. Remote start, do we want to turn the system off completely? And then if we remote start, whether that's through the Ford Pass app on our cell phone or through our key fob, do we want to have the climate control auto so the vehicle determines the cabin temperature, or is it based off of our last setting? Same idea with the seats. Do we want to have the vehicle determine if the heated seats or ventilated seats will come on? And then the duration, so 5, 10, or 15 minutes for that remote start. We've got windows there as well, so we can actually use the key fob in order to remote open the windows. Now it's windows down, might be windows up depending on which version of the truck you've got, but in order to power down, it's pretty straightforward. So on the actual fob itself, we're just gonna press the unlock button twice. On the second button press, you're gonna hold. So you're gonna go 1, 2, and hold. As you can see there, down the windows go. We can press the lock button partway through, and as you can see, powerful those windows as we do, really straightforward. And then you can press the unlock button again in order to be able to roll the windows down the rest of the way. So hold, down they go. And as you saw there, we can lock in order to be able to powerful those windows in as well. So we press lock, and in they go. Now, this feature is not going to be standard across the entire vehicle lineup. It is available in some of them. We could technically actually use an app called ForScan in order to be able to unlock this one on every version of the vehicle. That could potentially void your warranty though, so it's something to think about one way or the other. We've got some wiper control, so our courtesy wipe. So if we have our wipers going, and then what's going to happen is it'll go, and then once we hit our windshield wiper fluid, with the courtesy wipe on at the end of the cycle, it's just going to go one more time to get rid of any excess liquid that might be on the windshield. And that's going to be the basics of the vehicle setting there. We've got My Key. So we do have the flexibility of being able to set up a key fob with specific limitations. So if you wanted to have it set up so maybe somebody couldn't go more than 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles, whatever the case may be, you can easily set it up there. You can have it so that the volume's maxed out and limited at certain volume levels as well. And then we've got some options for our display setup. So how do we want to have the measurement unit? So kilometers, liters per 100, miles per gallon, etc. Temperature in Celsius or Fahrenheit. We've got some options for our tire pressure and then our language, so English, Spanish, or French. And that's going to be the basics of the actual vehicle settings there. And moving back, that is going to be the basics of the actual cluster screen. So it is pretty straightforward. There is a lot to it, but it is kind of simple when you actually dive into it. Now the stick on the left-hand side. So this one there, we do have a button just right on the very tip of the stick. That's going to be for our windshield wiper fluid. And then we can easily adjust our wipers there, our wiper speed. We can flash our high beams out easily there as well. But one thing to note, we're in the auto setting right now, so we can't permanently lock the high beams out that way. We have to switch off of the auto setting in order to be able to lock them out there. So you can see it's permanently locked on. In comparison, when we're in the auto mode, we can just flash. It's not permanently going to lock on there. So if you're going nuts trying to figure out why isn't your high beam locking out, it's because you're on the auto setting there. Stick on the right-hand side is going to be our drive mode selector. So as of right now, because we do have our shifter up here, we push this button in and you can see we've got our normal mode, tow haul, eco, slippery, and then a deep snow and sand mode. Now over to the side, we do have a series of different buttons and things like that that are available. We've got some things for our diesel, we've got our traction control on off, we've also got our four-way blinkers and our hill descent control. So that's one of the cool things because we do have the option of having it so that the vehicle keeps us at a set speed and we literally only have to worry about focusing on the road. So we can literally just worry about steering and the vehicle is going to keep us at that set speed. Now this is the Sync 4 media screen that is going to be standard inside of the Lariat version and above for the vehicle. Now in the lower trims, it's going to be the older Sync 3 screen, which the big difference, like it does visually look very different, very similar functionality though. The big difference between Sync 3 versus Sync 4 is going to be Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So we do actually have wireless settings there as well now. So you can connect wirelessly through Android Auto or CarPlay, which is great because if you had the option for the console with wireless charging, you could wirelessly charge while you're wirelessly connected. But a lot of the same things will be carried across from both systems. So going through some of the basics on the audio tab there, we have our sources all in the very top. So we can change between AM, FM, Sirius XM. If we had a USB stick with MP3s, that would show up there as an option. If our cell phone was connected, that would show up as an option. We can easily connect to Bluetooth audio. We can switch between different sources there as well. We can change between songs, stations, etc. We could direct tune this way if we wanted to. So simply enter a station, we can do that. That's probably the least effective method because we can press the command prompt on the steering wheel and we can change radio stations that way as well. Along the bottom, we do have some added sound settings. So as you can see, we've got our tone settings. So we can look at things like treble, mid-range, bass. We've got our balance and fade there as well, so we can literally figure out the positioning of the sound where it's going to be focused on. We can reset it to bring it back to our default instead. And actually, let's go up one part in volume there, so we won't constantly get that screen. We've got our speed compensated volume, so will the volume automatically raise or lower depending on the speed of the vehicle. And then we've got our sound mode, so we've either got stereo or our surround sound mode, so a few different options there. Moving back, that brings us back to this main screen. Now, one of the interesting things, if we go to one of our Sirius XM stations, we've got a ton of other options. We've got our notifications there if we want to, so we can add in, so notifications for either if we wanted the song or the artist, which is great. We can manage our notifications for the individual artists as well. If we had multiple people on the vehicle, so we could literally create a listener if we wanted to, and we've got some advanced Sirius XM settings. So we've got some more sound settings, so same idea what we saw earlier in the audio, that's going to be the same, but we've got our subscription info, we've got our favorites, so we can edit out our favorite stations if we wanted to. We can look at our listening history, look at individual settings, so if we wanted to block explicit content, reset our history. We've got our preset pages there as well, and that's going to be the same for AM, FM, so it's going to kind of bulk everything together. I'll show you what I mean. So with 6 preset pages, we now have 30 individual presets that we've got there. So it is a mix, obviously, of AM, FM, Sirius, XM, etc. So if you're a heavy audio listener, you've got a ton of different options that are available there. And that's going to be the basics of the actual audio system there. As I mentioned, we've got a few different options. We can browse this way. We can just browse through our steering wheel there to switch between presets. We can literally do a press and hold there as well if we wanted to change the stations out that way instead. Moving down, we do have our phone along the very bottom there. As you can see there, so we've got our phone, and that pushes our audio along the side. So we can adjust and move to different settings there if we wanted to. It's kind of neat because if we're on one of these other settings, we could swipe it to bring it back to that setting instead. But looking at phone to start, so as of right now, no phones are currently connected, and it's super straightforward in order to set a phone up. So first step, what we're going to do is just hit Add Phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Okay, and F250 is all we're waiting for there, so we're just going to hit F250.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? Yes, we do. And it'll take a second there, and we are connected. So pairing is successful. Literally,
for your
that's
safety,
simple.
Please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Thanks, car. And we've got our 911 assist there. So I always recommend turning 911 assist on. The big reason why is because if your phone's connected and you're in an accident, it's automatically going to dial 911 for us. There we go. So we're connected there. Next up, on my phone. There we go. That's what I was waiting for. So it asked me if I wanted to allow CarPlay with the F250. We want to use CarPlay, and so it supports CarPlay, so we just need to enable that first. And in a few seconds, 3, 2, 1, and we are fully connected. Literally that simple to be able to do it. And as you can see there, stretched out across, we've got our Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze. So we do technically have factory navigation, but if you wanted to use this screen instead, you could absolutely do that. So you do have some options there. We can jump back, and as you can see there, we do have a few different things. So we do have, back to the side, so LiveX Live is a radio app, so we could play that through CarPlay if we wanted to. But if we look through our app screen, we've got a series of other things that are available here now as well. So we've got LiveX Live, which because I'm connected through CarPlay, that's not going to show up as a clickable option. But if CarPlay was disabled, I would be able to connect through that app specifically over Bluetooth. Jumping back into CarPlay does exactly that, so it launches us back in. And then on our phone, if we go into general settings, we jump into CarPlay, we can find the F250, we can customize it, and we can literally do a drag and drop. So if you want to listen to your audiobooks and podcasts, we can easily adjust that dynamically. If we've deleted something accidentally, it moves to the very bottom of the screen, and we can also do a reset in order to bring this back to our factory default screen there instead. And then pushing this button is going to launch us back into this main screen instead. So we do have some flexibility there, and it literally is that simple setting up Apple CarPlay inside of this vehicle. All right, now setting up Android Auto is literally the exact same process. So firstly, because I'm still connected to CarPlay, what we're going to do is just jump into phone list there, and that's going to bring us back to this main list. If you're on one of the other pages, etc., we just go into settings. We've got our phone list, and that's going to bring us up to this setting now. We've got my phone that's currently connected, so we can click on that. So we've got a couple different connection options. So we can disable CarPlay, we can connect our Bluetooth audio if we want to. We can jump into my phone settings. As you can see there, we've got a series of different options. We can't adjust any of these settings because I'm connected to CarPlay. So if we disable CarPlay for a second, we're going to connect to Bluetooth media. So we're connected there, clicking inside. And as you can see there, we've got my phone settings now, and we've got a series of different options there. So we've got contacts, text messaging, roaming warnings, and a number of other things. But setting up Android Auto. So now that we are connected, we can set up Android devices very simply. We're just going to add a phone.
Search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
And very similar to what we saw, we're just going to search for, there we go, F250. Once it shows up, we're just going to click on that.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Okay, and they are currently paired up. Do we want to
For
allow
your
access?
safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
Thanks, car. All right, now what we have to do is just enable Android Auto there as well. Let's allow access to messages. And we are connected there. And look at this, Android Auto is set up all at the same time. So we can literally just continue through if we want to. We can exit out if we don't want to set up Android Auto just yet. But the phone is fully connected. So if we continue on through Android Auto, so we just continue, and look at this, fully connected, literally that simple. So as you can see there, we do have our basics. We can search easily that way if we wanted to. We've got our Google Maps settings there, so we can literally adjust what's going on there. We've got our traffic settings, guidance, etc. We've got our notification center and our Google Assistant. And that's actually something I didn't show you on the Apple side, but because we're connected through Android Auto, if we were connected through either Android or Apple CarPlay, we can press and hold this on the steering wheel, and then it's going to pull up our Google Assistant instead. We could do that, or on the Google side, or if we had it set up on our Apple side as well, we could say things like, "Hey Google," and that's going to pull up our assistant there as well. We can hop inside here in order to be able to jump back to this main screen. We do have the flexibility of being able to customize this like what we did on the iPhone side of things, but doing it, we don't have as much customization options. So if we search for Android Auto, we go into our Android Auto settings, we've got previously connected cars, we can customize the launcher, and we can literally just kind of do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust. But whatever we change here, we actually have to relaunch Android Auto for the settings to take into effect. It's not going to dynamically update the same way that it would on the Apple side of things, but we still technically could customize. Moving back, we've got our Google detection there, day-nighttime mode for maps, we can start Android Auto while the phone is locked, and we've got a few other options there as well. So we could kind of disable and we can adjust things as necessary as we'd like to here. And as you can see, fully connected through Android Auto, jumping back into either the phone list at the top there, so we've got both phones connected. Clicking through to the Galaxy, we've got Android Auto, which could easily be disabled. We can connect back to Bluetooth audio instead if we wanted to, which means it'll temporarily disable Android Auto. As you can see there, so we're connected to our Bluetooth media and not to Android Auto, so we can easily adjust that as necessary. We can jump into our phone settings, and if you've got multiple devices, this is where we're going to go to set this thing up as a favorite phone if we wanted to. So if both phones were recognized, as which one gets connection priority. We can manage our contacts, and we've got a number of other options like what we saw on the iPhone side. Now, if we ever wanted to delete a phone, it's actually super straightforward. So along the very top, we've got a little trash icon, and we just delete that way. The phone is disconnected, and it's completely removed. Same idea with this phone, so we can connect and disconnect. So we're going to delete, yes, and both phones are now fully disconnected. We go back into phone, nothing's connected, and it literally is that simple to be able to set up a phone inside of this vehicle. All right, next up, we've got navigation, and this means that we do have factory navigation. We do have a few different options that are available for the navigation. We've got connected services, which means that we would get live weather, traffic alerts, and things like that. You could technically just use the Waze app instead on your cell phone in order to get that, but we do at least have this as an option there as well. We can easily look at our menu button along the very top, so we can look at our map orientation, and we can adjust whether it's 2D, 3D, etc. Moving back, we've got our voice options there. So as we come up to an upcoming turn, etc., do we want it to be voice and tone, strictly a voice, or strictly a tone letting us know of an upcoming turn? Traffic on the map, do we want to show that, yes or no? We can avoid certain things. So if we want to avoid toll roads, highways, tunnels, ferries, etc., we can easily do that. We can show on map, so we can show certain things. So if we want to show point of interest icons like ATMs, parking, hotels, etc., we can do that. Weather, and we've also got more setting options. So we've got some routing and map preferences, which means that we can reroute to avoid certain traffic. We can look at a 3D map there instead, so 3D options. We've got our fastest or the most eco-friendly route, and then we've got breadcrumbs. So think of breadcrumbs like Hansel and Gretel. So as we go back to the map, whatever areas we go to, it's literally going to leave a little drop letting us know that we've gone to that area. So useful if you're going kind of like off-roading, rugged terrain, etc., and you want to make sure you're kind of taking the same route back as you go. Moving back inside, that's going to be the basics of the navigation settings there. We can easily search for addresses, so we can easily start typing in an address there, and we just give it a second as we type, and it's going to be predictive, so we give it a sec, 3, 2, and there we go. So as you can see, it's given us a few options there. We can easily select one of these options as well. And we've got options now. So if there was a phone number available, it would call through. We can also save it as a favorite if we wanted to. And we can look at some different route options. So we can look at a few different route choices. So we do have the option there of doing that. We can select whichever one we want to easily. And then we just press the start button there.
Traffic laws. Be alert and use voice commands while driving. Please proceed to the highlighted road.
Perfect. All right, so as you can see there, we are connected. Along the right side is our indicator. So how far or how close are we away from completing the route? We can stretch the map out across the entire side there, and pretty cool. Like, I kind of actually love the fact we've got that option. We can add in certain things. We can change up the route there as well if we wanted to. So route view, we can mute this thing out, or we can completely cancel the route if we wanted to. We can search a few other different ways. So now that we've looked at an address recently, we can go back to that address that we've looked at. We can save certain things. We can look at food, attractions, and we can search by GPS coordinates as well. So if we enter in coordinates there, we can do that. Different options for our keyboard, different settings there, and we've got different keyboard languages as well. We do have a favorite button along the very bottom, so we can literally create this favorite button to more or less do what we'd like it to do. So we do have a few different options as to what's showing up there. So if we wanted to set this favorite button up so that when we press it, it changes between the audio sources, look at that. So now it's our audio sources, so if we click off and we click on this one, we can change between our different audio sources now. We press again to edit it and we can go to different options instead. So we want to have that for vehicle settings instead. As you can see, we've got our vehicle button there. So we press vehicle settings, jumps us into our vehicle settings, press in order to be able to edit it out if we want one of these other options instead. So we can kind of customize what's showing up there. Next up will be our app settings. So we do have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay there. Currently not connected, so
Search for your vehicle on your...
So there we go. So as you can see, it brings us back to our phone list as well. So pretty straightforward there. Moving into our settings now, so a ton of other options. We've actually seen these settings already when we're in the audio tab, so we do have a few different options, and this is going to look dynamic. Because we're on a Sirius XM station, if we actually go to an AM or FM, go to our settings again, we're back to our radio defaults, which same thing, we've seen this before as well. Moving back, we can easily add a phone in there. So we can add a phone here, we can add a phone in there, tons of different places. We've got our sync navigation, so our factory nav, and those are our factory navigation options. Moving back, we've got some sound settings, so what we saw earlier under our audio, so we've got our tone, treble, mid-range bass, balance, fade, etc. Some base vehicle settings, so our rear occupant alert, so if we go to drive and we turn the truck off, lets us know to check the rear seats. So we can turn that one on or off if we want to, so if you've got kids in the back, etc., just a nice little reminder to check the back seat as well. Some other vehicle settings, we've got a serial number, door keypad code we saw on the outside, so we've got a 5-digit number we can enter in. There's a default 5-digit factory one, and then you can add in more codes if you wanted to. And then we've also got our rear view camera delay. So if we were shifting into reverse there, and then if we were to switch out to drive, whatever the case may be, it just kind of gives us a second before it's going to turn that camera off. So it's a little bit of a delay there, it's kind of a nice thing. So if you want to make sure that, you've got some things behind you, space behind you, etc. Moving back, series of other options. So we've got our clock down there. We can change between hours, minutes, etc. We can go into our military time instead, and auto time update. So it's going to automatically update us based off of our GPS location. Moving back, we've got some general settings now, so we can change between English, Spanish, French, kilometers or miles, Celsius, Fahrenheit. The beep that we're getting there, if that drives you nuts, you can disable it if you want to. We've got our feedback, and we can do a reset to either the Ford Pass app or our master reset. So we do have the flexibility of using the Ford Pass app to do things like remote start the vehicle. We can look at our current notification settings and things like that. If for whatever reason you need to remove people, or if it's giving you any trouble, you can easily update it here if you wanted to. Or we can just do a master reset to bring the entire vehicle back to its factory default settings there instead. We do have some display settings, so as nice and as big and as beautiful as this display is, if you find it to be a little bit distracting, we can turn the display off if we want to completely. Button press to bring it to life. We can put it to a calming screen instead, which is just our date and time. Same idea, button press to bring it back to life again. We can adjust the brightness if we want to, so we can adjust the brightness this way very easily, reset it to the default, and then we can change out the mode. So as of right now, so it's in auto, but it's showing us this is the daytime mode. We can lock it out to permanently be the day, we can permanently lock it out to this nighttime mode instead, or we can have the vehicle determine if it's going to be the daytime or the nighttime mode, and that's just based off of how bright it is outside. Moving back, and next screen over, we've got our Ford Assistant. So we've got the flexibility of having the vehicle listen to wake words. So rather than pressing the command prompt on the steering wheel, which if we do that, that's great, we can have it listen to different wake words. So we set up a different word, whatever is going to show up there, and then I want you to listen to something for a sec. Okay, Ford. 94.9.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
So it's kind of neat because we can now go completely button free in order to be able to change stations. We can do things as well like navigate using our voice, make phone calls and things like that. We can set up a preferred wake word. Advanced mode means that we won't get as many notifications. Phone confirmation, do you want to call such and such person, yes or no? Our command list, when we say okay Ford or we press the button on the steering wheel, this is going to pop up. So this is the command list. That one can show up, yes or no. And then moving back, connectivity and vehicle hotspot. So connectivity, definitely recommend making sure that you connect to a Wi-Fi network at home. You could technically just get a data-only plan through your cell phone provider as well if you wanted to and use the vehicle as a hotspot. But one of the cool things is that if you go connect to Wi-Fi at home, you could also turn on automatic updates, so system updates, which means that when you're at home, you can schedule the updates, and if there's an update available, it's automatically going to update the vehicle for you. So it's definitely a useful setting there. Then, as I mentioned, the vehicle does have a built-in modem, so you can use it as a wireless hotspot for up to 10 devices. You do need a data-only plan in order to be able to access that feature, but it is available there as an option. We've got a few different things there. So as you can see, we've got data usage. We can look at different settings there as well. So we can literally set up what our name is for our network and a few other things. We've got the option of managing connected devices, and we can get some help if we need it. We've got some mobile apps as well. So certain apps will only work through USB, and that's specifically, as you can see there, on the Android Auto side. So certain apps you will have to be connected through Android Auto wired in order to get some of them to work. Back again, we've got our system update screen, which we already saw that one earlier. And then we've got a digital owner's manual. So if you're getting any weird messages on the dash, you're not really sure what lights mean, etc., you want to know about break-in periods, etc., we've got our owner's manual now. So fully digital there, built into the screen, which means that we don't get a physical printed book anymore. If you wanted an actual owner's manual, you could actually go online to Ford's website and you can find it for your vehicle, whether that's a SuperDuty, a Mustang, whatever the case may be, and you can easily print it out. We've got category views, visual searches, bookmarks, and a few other things, looking at a number of options that are available there. And moving back again into our 911 assist, which we've already seen that one. So what's going to happen there? 911 assist, if the phone's connected, vehicle senses a collision, it'll dial 911 for us. And we've also got our valet mode there, which we enter in a 4-digit number, and that's going to lock the screen out, and the screen alone. So literally you enter in a 4-digit number and you can't look through anything. You won't be able to look at navigation, vehicle settings, things like that, until you enter that 4-digit number again. And that's going to be the basis of the actual Sync 4 media screen, with the exception of this thing. So we do have a little tray along the side there, which we can look in this up-down view here if we want to, or we can press this page view instead. So we can kind of flip up and down, and it is fairly responsive there, which is great. We can button press in order to bring certain things up, or we can fully swipe it across the side there in order to bring certain options up there as well. Jumping back into the other tabs brings us back to this split screen there. And we do have some other options. As you can see, we've got some base climate control settings there as well. But that's going to be the basics of that Sync 4 media screen. Moving down a tiny little bit more, actually off to the side first of all, we do have a few different drive modes. So our 2 high, 4 high versus 4 low, and then we've got our rear differential lock there as well. We do have a series of different audio settings. A little bit further over, we've got a 12-volt power point as well as our traditional 400-watt power point there as well. So our regular wall outlet, we can literally plug that in if we want to. We've got some base climate control settings there as well, and we do have dual zone climate control inside of the Lariat. It is going to be single zone in some of the lower trim levels there, and one of the beautiful things, like looking at the seats themselves, inside of the XL it's going to be a vinyl seat, XLT is going to be a cloth, the Lariat and above, leather. Oh, so nice leather. So this is an absolutely beautiful feel, beautiful look to it. And one of the great things, heated and ventilated front seats. So really, really nice, especially for summertime and things are a little bit toasty. You could definitely cool yourself down a little bit there. And as I mentioned, we do have dual zone climate control inside of this as well. Now, the setup here is obviously a little bit different because we don't have the console. If we had the console, this setup would be vastly different because we technically do have a few USB power points there, so a USB and USB-C, as well as a 12-volt power point. But one of the cool things is that if we had the option with the console instead, we would still have those things a little bit further up inside of the console there, but we would also have an armrest that we can open up as well, so we can store more things on the inside. And one of the cool things is that if we have the option with the console, we would have wireless charging available as an option as well. Really, really nice because if you're on that Sync 4 system, we could be wirelessly charging our phone while at the same time we're connected wirelessly through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Now, down a little bit more, we do also have our integrated brake controller, going to be standard across the vehicle lineup. Moving up overhead, we do have the option for an auto-dimming rear view mirror. And we do have our basic cabin control lighting there. We do have our sunglasses holder, which typical Ford fashion. Now, this specific one doesn't have the optional panoramic roof, so we could get that as an option, and we would have our controls there as well. But we do have our power sliding rear window, and that's neat because we do have the button there as well. We do have to hold it in order to be able to open or close it, so it's not auto, unfortunately. And then we've got a series of different speakers and proximity sensors and things like that. Up overhead, we do have the optional home link system. Dropping down, we've got a little business card holder, vanity mirror with the light and vanity mirror, things like that, not available in the XL version. But we can also extend this thing out in order to block all that sun that might be hitting it. It's kind of neat because it extends all the way out there, which is always cool. Now, we also do have our assist handles there, and that's going to be the same for the driver passenger side in the first and for the second row. But overall, like, I am super impressed because, like I said, like, comfort-wise, it's great. Overall seating position as well, like, this is nice. Now, we do have the option for either power or manual seats, depending on which version of the vehicle we're in. This is the Lariat, so we do have a series of different options for power. We can move the seat forwards, backwards, we can go up and down. We can adjust the backrest in there, and then we've got our two-way lumbar support. Now, inside of some of the higher trims, we do have the option for the active motion seats. And that's the massage chair seats, which are really, really nice. I was actually just in one of the 22 F-150 Limiteds recently, and that had the massage chair seats, and it is so, so comfortable. So you will get that in some of the higher trim levels and added packages and things like that inside of the SuperDuty. But overall comfort is great. Now, if you did have the base, so the XL or the XLT without power, we would have a little bar just in between our legs where we could literally slide the seat forwards and backwards as well. One of the cool things, we do have fully adjustable pedals there. So that is kind of neat because, I mean, if you're a little bit shorter, you can bring those pedals more towards you as well, lifting that seat up higher just to make the overall drive a little bit more comfortable. The steering wheel itself, it is going to be a manual adjust. In the majority of the lower trim levels, we do have the option for the power one instead, and it's going to be telescoping across the board as well. So we can adjust it to our liking there. Whether it's manual or power is going to depend on which trim level of the vehicle you've got. Now, this is the crew cab version of the truck, which means that we've got the full 4 doors. And it also means that we have a boatload of space in the back here. Like, I'm 6 feet tall and I've got a great amount of knee space, a good amount of foot space. And like up overhead, I've got almost 6 inches of head space, which is kind of crazy. But that's a little bit of a caveat because this one doesn't have the optional sunroof. So if we were to look at something like, let's say, the King Ranch Ultimate Package, that would come with the panoramic roof. So we would lose a little bit of headspace there. Not a ton, we'd lose about 2 inches roughly of space. But I mean, it is nice to know that we do have the option of getting the SuperDuty configured without that sunroof whatsoever. Now, that is going to depend on the trim level because you get into that limited, so the highest trim available, that is going to come with the sunroof as a default. So something to think about there. But looking, like I said, overall space, comfort-wise, and styling inside of this is pretty nice. It's actually kind of interesting because usually in the Lariat, I normally see the ebony interior. So seeing this lighter interior is actually kind of nice, and it's definitely something that's different. It actually matches my shoes today, so kind of cool. But we look at some features in the back row here. We do have cup holders in the back, so just in behind the bench seat. Not going to be standard in all versions of the vehicle, but it is available optionally. If we actually lift the seat up, we do have our lockable storage there. So it is kind of neat. We can actually fold both of these seats up very, very easily there. So we just crank and lift, and look at this. So we do have this rear foldable storage that is lockable there as well. So we can easily lock this thing up into place. So one of the great things there is that if we need to store some things, we can do it, and we can actually lock the seats down permanently as well. So if we've got certain things under here that we want to make sure people can't lift up and access, we can physically lock the seats down. And that's just using the key on the key fob there, whether that's the emergency access key, the main ignition key, etc. One of the cool things, we can easily lock and unlock this thing as well, and we can easily fold it down. So if you need to create a little bit more storage space back here, you can easily do it by folding this down as well. Now, as I said, this isn't going to come standard inside of every version of the vehicle. It is available optionally, and we do have a power inverter in the back there as well. Now, that's actually something to think about because there are power inverters and a few other things, but it's based off of what version of the vehicle we've got, because this one has the 40-20-40 bench, which means that we don't have a console in the middle, which means that we don't have the power points and things like that we would see in the back of the one with the console. So whether you get that option is going to depend on you. Do you need a 5 or a 6-seater? Because this one is the 6-seater setup. We could technically fold this forward to get a mini console. Like we can't open it up down here, unfortunately, but there is a little console that I'll show you in a minute there. But the space back here is kind of crazy. Like I said, like I'm 6 feet tall, and with the seats up, it is super comfortable. Now, obviously I wouldn't be laying or sitting on the floor here, but these seats are locked up into place as well once you have them folded up, and then you can easily just pull the tab down in order to fold one seat down or the other. So it is kind of a nice thing. Now, if you're going to be using this as a potential driver for kids, we do have our anchors and tethers along the back. We do also have the option of folding this part of the seat forward there as well, if we do need to get to a few of the other tie downs there. Other things to point out in the back here. Now, this specific one doesn't have the console. So this is the 40-20-40 bench, which means that behind this, we do have a small little power point, so our traditional 12-volt power point, and we do have a few cup holders down at the bottom, and we can literally fold that tray up or down if we wanted to. If few other things to point out. We do have some hooks along the driver passenger side. We've got a few assist handles, and then we can also control our cabin lighting from the top there as well. Well folks, that was a fairly in-depth look at the Ford SuperDuty. Now we looked specifically at the F250, but at the same time a lot of the differences in the trim levels between the XLT, the Lariat, the King Ranch, all that fun stuff will be the same across the SuperDuty lineup. But if you have any questions about your specific build, not really sure which way you should go, drop down in the comments section below and let me know. I'm more than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. If you're looking for that payload and towing specific video, it's coming soon. It's not shot just yet, but at the same time, check down in the description below because once that video is available, it will be down in that description. And as well as a number of other links, like how this thing was configured for the specific truck we looked at today, you'll find build links and things like that for that specific vehicle. But if you have any general questions, drop down and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. Think about subscribing because it definitely helps the channel grow. Until I see you next time, take care. There are a number of different grills that are available, similar to what's going on with the wheels. You've got a series of different because inside of the SuperDuty, we're going to be able to tow a minimum of 12,500 pounds, and we can go up to 20,000. But looking at some of the basics here, so along the steering wheel itself, we will have